Imagine a woman standing alone in a crowded room. She feels invisible, as if the world has passed her by, leaving her with no one to talk to, no one to lean on. But let me tell you something, that woman is stronger than she realizes. She may feel friendless, but she is not powerless. You see, life doesn't always hand us what we want. Sometimes it feels like it takes everything we have just to make it through the day. No one calls to check in, no one invites us out, and loneliness can feel like an unwelcome shadow. But here's the truth: being alone does not mean you are unworthy. Being alone does not mean you are defeated. It means you are in a season of transformation. Loneliness is often misunderstood. It's easy to look at the absence of people in someone's life and equate it with an absence of value, but the truth is far deeper than that. Loneliness is not a definition of who you are. It's simply a season, a chapter in the book of your life. Seasons come and go, and just as winter makes way for spring, loneliness too can transform into something beautiful if you embrace it with the right mindset. Many people go through periods of loneliness, but instead of seeing them as opportunities, they let them define their self-worth. They ask, what's wrong with me? Why don't I have anyone? They start to internalize the lack of social connections as a reflection of their inadequacy. But nothing could be further from the truth. Just because you're alone doesn't mean you're less than anyone else. It doesn't mean you're unworthy of love or connection. It simply means you're in a space where life is calling you to look inward, to grow, and to prepare for the next chapter. Loneliness can be a powerful teacher if you let it. It strips away the distractions, the noise of everyday relationships, and forces you to confront yourself. This is not a punishment, it's an invitation. When the world quiets down, you get the chance to ask yourself questions you might have been avoiding. Who am I without the validation of others? What truly makes me happy? What kind of life do I want to build? These are not easy questions to answer, but they are necessary ones. The answers you uncover in this season will set the foundation for everything that comes next. People often underestimate the strength that comes from solitude. Being alone can teach you resilience, independence, and self-reliance. It challenges you to find joy in your own company, to discover your passions, and to stand tall even when no one is cheering you on. It's easy to feel confident when you're surrounded by friends and family, but true strength is built in those quiet moments when it's just you and your thoughts. Consider this: some of the most remarkable individuals in history spent significant periods of their lives in solitude. They used that time to reflect, to create, and to grow. Isolation gave them the space they needed to discover their purpose and sharpen their vision. You are no different. The season you're in right now is preparing you for something greater, something meaningful. But to see it that way, you must shift your perspective. Instead of seeing loneliness as a void, see it as a blank canvas. You have the power to paint your own picture, to create a life that reflects your dreams and aspirations. This is your chance to invest in yourself, to learn new skills, to explore your interests, and to build a life that excites you. When you do that, you'll find that the right people naturally gravitate towards you because they're drawn to the light you've created within yourself. It's important to remember that seasons of loneliness are temporary. They don't last forever, even if they feel like they will. The connections you're longing for are out there, but they won't come from chasing people or trying to fit into spaces that don't align with who you truly are. They'll come when you're living authentically, when you've built a life that reflects your values and passions. You might be alone now, but that doesn't mean you'll always be. And even in this season, you're never truly alone. The world is full of people who feel the same way you do, people who are also longing for connection and understanding. Sometimes all it takes is a little courage to reach out, to share your story, and to open yourself up to the possibility of new friendships. Loneliness can feel heavy, but it's not a burden you have to carry forever. It's a season, a chapter, and like all chapters, it will come to an end. Until then, use this time wisely. Use it to grow, to learn, and to become the person you're meant to be. When the next season arrives, you'll look back on this one not with regret, but with gratitude. Because it's in the quietest moments of our lives that we often find our greatest strength. Self-love is the foundation upon which a fulfilling life is built. When you're a woman without friends, it's easy to feel as though something is missing, as if you're incomplete without the presence of others validating your worth. But the truth is, the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. Friends, companions, and loved ones can enrich your life, but they can't fill the void if you don't first learn to love who you are. Self-love isn't just a nice concept, it's a necessity. It's the soil in which every other aspect of your life takes root and grows. When you cultivate self-love, you begin to see yourself not through the lens of what others think or how society measures you, but through a lens of compassion, understanding, and acceptance. This shift is transformative. Instead of chasing approval or fearing rejection, you start to build a sense of inner stability. You stop looking outward for someone to reassure you that you're enough because you've already decided that for yourself. The journey to self-love starts with recognizing your own inherent value. It means appreciating your strengths, forgiving your weaknesses, and honoring your journey no matter how imperfect it may be. Society often teaches women to seek validation from external sources, relationships, careers, or appearances. But self-love challenges this narrative. It asks you to step back and say, I am enough just as I am. That's not arrogance, it's the recognition of your humanity and your worth. It's important to remember that self-love isn't about being perfect. It's about embracing yourself in all your complexity. It's about acknowledging the parts of you that need growth while celebrating the parts that already shine. You don't need to wait until you achieve some milestone or fix all your flaws to start loving yourself. Self-love is a daily practice, a choice you make every time you look in the mirror or confront a challenge. It's a commitment to treat yourself with the same kindness and respect you would offer a dear friend. When you learn to love yourself, something incredible happens. You become your own best companion. The loneliness that once felt unbearable begins to fade, not because you've surrounded yourself with people, but because you've discovered that your own company is enough. You start to enjoy spending time with yourself, exploring your interests, and discovering who you truly are without the noise of others' opinions. This isn't selfishness, it's self-preservation. It's filling your own cup so that when the time comes to share with others, you're not pouring from an empty vessel. Loving yourself also empowers you to set boundaries and protect your energy. Without self-love, it's easy to fall into patterns of people-pleasing, sacrificing your own needs to make others happy. But when you value yourself, you understand the importance of saying no when something doesn't serve you. You learn to walk away from relationships and situations that drain you, even if it means standing alone for a while. This isn't weakness, it's strength. It's knowing your worth and refusing to settle for less. One of the greatest benefits of self-love is the confidence it builds. When you truly love and accept yourself, you stop comparing yourself to others. You no longer feel the need to compete or measure up because you're content with who you are. This confidence is magnetic. It draws people to you, not because you need them, but because your self-assuredness inspires and uplifts those around you. Ironically, it's often when you stop seeking external validation that genuine connections start to form. Self-love also fosters resilience. Life will inevitably throw challenges your way, and there will be times when you stumble or fall. But when you have a foundation of self-love, you don't let those moments define you. You pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and keep moving forward because you know your worth isn't tied to your failures or mistakes. You give yourself grace, knowing that every setback is an opportunity to grow stronger and wiser. It's worth noting that self-love doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey, and like any journey, it requires patience and practice. There will be days when it feels easy and days when it feels nearly impossible. But every small act of kindness you show yourself, whether it's taking a moment to rest, speaking to yourself with compassion, or celebrating a small win, builds that foundation a little stronger. So if you find yourself feeling alone, remember this: you are not your circumstances. You are not defined by the number of people in your life or the relationships you currently have. What defines you is how you treat yourself, how you show up for yourself, and the love you cultivate within. Everything else, friendships, opportunities, joy, will flow naturally from that foundation. When you love yourself, you don't just survive, you thrive. In life, it's easy to get caught up in the idea of being popular, of being surrounded by people, of having a busy social calendar that looks good from the outside. But none of that really matters if it doesn't align with who you truly are and what you're meant to do. Purpose is what gives life meaning, not popularity. Chasing popularity is like running on a treadmill. No matter how fast you go, you'll never reach the destination that truly fulfills you. When you live a life driven by purpose, everything changes. Your energy shifts, your priorities become clear, and the right people and opportunities start to find you. Living a purpose-driven life begins with clarity. It requires you to take a step back from the noise of the world and ask yourself, what truly matters to me? What kind of impact do I want to have? What brings me joy and fulfillment? These are not easy questions, and the answers won't come overnight. They require deep reflection and honesty. But when you start to uncover your purpose, you unlock a sense of direction that is far more rewarding than any fleeting moment of popularity. Purpose gives you a reason to get up in the morning, a reason to keep going even when the road gets tough. It's what keeps you grounded when life feels uncertain. Popularity, on the other hand, is fickle. It's based on the opinions and perceptions of others, and it can disappear as quickly as it comes. If you tie your worth to how many people like you or how many friends you have, you'll always be at the mercy of something outside your control. But when you tie your worth to your purpose, you build a foundation that no one can take away. The beauty of living with purpose is that it attracts the right people into your life. When you're focused on what truly matters to you, you naturally align with others who share your values and goals. These connections are far more meaningful than surface-level friendships based on convenience or circumstance. They're rooted in mutual respect, understanding, and a shared vision. You don't have to chase these relationships or try to force them to happen. They develop organically because you're living authentically. Purpose also helps you prioritize your time and energy. When you're clear on what you're working toward, you become less interested in things that don't align with that vision. This doesn't mean you become antisocial or isolate yourself, but it does mean you're more intentional about where you invest your attention. You stop saying yes to everything and start saying yes only to the things that truly matter. This shift not only protects your energy, but also allows you to focus on what brings real fulfillment. Another important aspect of purpose is that it gives you resilience. When you're living with purpose, setbacks don't feel like the end of the world. They're just obstacles on the path to something greater. Purpose gives you the strength to keep going. Even when the journey gets hard, it reminds you that your life has meaning beyond the momentary challenges you face. Popularity, in contrast, offers no such anchor. When you base your worth on external validation, even the smallest criticism or rejection can feel devastating. But when you're rooted in purpose, those external opinions lose their power. Purpose also transforms how you see yourself. When you're living in alignment with your values and working toward meaningful goals, you develop a sense of pride and confidence that isn't dependent on anyone else. You start to appreciate yourself not for what others think of you, but for the effort you're putting into becoming the person you want to be. This self-assuredness is incredibly liberating. It frees you from the need to fit into molds or meet expectations that don't resonate with you. Living with purpose doesn't mean you won't face challenges or moments of doubt. There will be times when the path feels unclear, when you wonder if you're making the right choices. But even in those moments, your purpose serves as a guiding light. It reminds you of why you started, of what you're working toward, and of the impact you want to have. That sense of direction is invaluable, especially in a world that often encourages distraction and superficiality. It's also worth noting that purpose isn't something you have to figure out all at once. It evolves as you grow and learn. What feels meaningful to you today might change as you gain new experiences and insights. That's okay. The important thing is to stay true to yourself and to keep moving toward what feels authentic and fulfilling. Purpose isn't a destination, it's a journey, one that unfolds over time. So while popularity might seem appealing in the moment, it pales in comparison to the deep fulfillment that comes from living with purpose. When you prioritize what truly matters, you not only create a life that feels meaningful to you, but you also inspire others to do the same. You become a beacon of authenticity and strength, not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you're living in alignment with who you truly are. And that, more than anything else, is what makes life worth living. In life, we often measure relationships by their quantity, believing that having more friends equates to a richer, more fulfilling life. Social media amplifies this idea, constantly showing us highlight reels of people surrounded by smiling faces, laughing, and seemingly living their best lives. But the truth is, it's not the number of people in your life that determines its value, it's the depth, authenticity, and meaning of the connections you build. Quality is what matters, not quantity. A single genuine relationship can be more fulfilling than a crowd of shallow ones. Meaningful relationships are built on trust, respect, and mutual understanding. They require time, effort, and emotional investment. Unlike superficial connections, they don't depend on convenience, shared hobbies, or the desire to maintain a social image. Real relationships are forged through honesty, vulnerability, and the willingness to show up for each other in both good times and bad. They are safe spaces where you can be yourself without fear of judgment or rejection. Building quality relationships starts with self-awareness. You need to understand who you are, what you value, and what kind of people you want to surround yourself with. Without this clarity, it's easy to fall into relationships that are based on proximity or circumstance rather than shared values. These relationships might feel comforting at first, but over time, their lack of depth becomes apparent. They can leave you feeling lonely even when you're surrounded by people. When you prioritize quality over quantity, you stop seeking validation through the sheer number of connections you have. Instead, you begin to focus on cultivating relationships that enrich your life. This shift in mindset is liberating. It allows you to step away from the pressure of trying to please everyone or fit into groups that don't align with your true self. You stop wasting energy on maintaining connections that don't bring you joy or growth. and you redirect that energy toward relationships that truly matter. Deep connections are built gradually. They can't be rushed or forced. They develop through shared experiences, open communication, and a willingness to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is especially important because it allows others to see the real you. It's not always easy to open up, especially if you've been hurt in the past, but it's a necessary step in forming authentic bonds. When you're willing to share your thoughts, fears, and dreams, you create a space for others to do the same. And that's where true connection begins. It's also important to recognize that meaningful relationships are not always easy. They require effort, patience, and sometimes compromise. Disagreements and misunderstandings are inevitable, but they don't have to be deal breakers. In fact, how you navigate challenges together can strengthen the bond. When both parties are committed to understanding and supporting each other, even difficult moments become opportunities for growth. Choosing quality over quantity also means being selective about who you let into your life. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your journey. It's okay to set boundaries and protect your energy. Some people will drain you, belittle you, or take advantage of your kindness. These are not the people you need in your life. Surround yourself with those who uplift you, who celebrate your successes without jealousy, and who stand by you in times of struggle. These are the people who truly matter. Quality relationships are not one-sided. They require reciprocity. It's not just about what others bring to your life, but also about what you bring to theirs. Are you a good listener? Do you show up for the people you care about? Do you express gratitude and appreciation for their presence in your life? Building meaningful connections isn't just about finding the right people. It's also about being the kind of person others want to connect with. Another key aspect of prioritizing quality relationships is learning to let go of those that no longer serve you. This can be difficult, especially if you have a long history with someone, but sometimes holding on to a toxic or unfulfilling relationship does more harm than good. It's not about blaming or resenting the other person. It's about recognizing that the relationship isn't aligned with who you are or where you're going. Letting go creates space for healthier, more meaningful connections to enter your life. It's also worth noting that quality relationships don't always have to be lifelong. Some connections serve a purpose for a specific season of your life. They teach you lessons, support you through challenges, or help you grow in some way. When their time comes to an end, it doesn't diminish their value. Instead of clinging to the past, cherish the memories and move forward with gratitude. When you focus on quality over quantity, you may find that your circle becomes smaller, but it will also become richer. The people who remain in your life will be those who truly matter, who see you for who you are, and who love and support you unconditionally. These relationships provide a sense of belonging and security that no amount of superficial connections can match. At the end of the day, the measure of a life well lived isn't how many people you know, but the depth of the connections you've cultivated. True fulfillment comes from knowing that you've built relationships based on authenticity, love, and mutual respect. These are the connections that will stand the test of time, and they're worth far more than any fleeting sense of popularity or social approval. Life is unpredictable. No matter how carefully you plan, there will always be moments that knock you off your path, moments of failure, rejection, and disappointment. These setbacks can feel overwhelming, as though they define your future and limit your potential. But here's the truth: every setback is a setup for growth. It's not the end of the road, it's a bend in the journey. These challenges are opportunities to learn, adapt, and become stronger than you ever imagined. When you face a setback, it's natural to feel discouraged. You might ask yourself, why me? Why now? What did I do wrong? But focusing on the negative won't move you forward. Instead, it's essential to reframe the situation. Rather than seeing a setback as a failure, see it as a lesson. What can this experience teach you? What can you do differently next time? How can you grow from this moment? This shift in perspective is powerful. It transforms obstacles into stepping stones and allows you to take control of your narrative. Growth often comes from discomfort. Think about the times in your life when you've learned the most or made the biggest strides. Chances are those moments weren't easy. They probably involved struggle, uncertainty, and even pain. But they also forced you to dig deep, to find strength you didn't know you had, and to develop skills or resilience you hadn't needed before. Setbacks work the same way. They push you out of your comfort zone and into a space where growth becomes possible. Setbacks also teach you patience. In a world that values instant gratification, it's easy to expect immediate success. But real progress takes time. It's not always a straight line. It's often a winding road with detours and delays. When you encounter a setback, it's an opportunity to slow down, reassess, and rebuild. This process can feel frustrating, but it's also where the magic happens. It's where you develop the perseverance and grit needed to achieve your goals. One of the most important lessons setbacks teach is the importance of flexibility. Life rarely goes exactly as planned, and clinging to a rigid vision of how things should be can lead to unnecessary frustration. Setbacks force you to adapt, to find new solutions, and to explore paths you might not have considered otherwise. This adaptability is a crucial skill, not just for overcoming challenges, but for thriving in a constantly changing world. Setbacks also reveal your true character. It's easy to stay optimistic and motivated when everything is going well, but when things fall apart, when the odds are stacked against you, that's when your inner strength is tested. How do you respond when life doesn't go your way? Do you give up, or do you rise to the challenge? Setbacks give you the chance to prove to yourself just how resilient and resourceful you can be. Another gift of setbacks is the perspective they provide. When you're in the middle of a struggle, it can feel like the end of the world. But often when you look back, you realize that the setback wasn't as catastrophic as it seemed. In fact, it may have even been necessary to get you to where you are now. This perspective is invaluable because it reminds you that setbacks are temporary. They're a chapter in your story, not the whole book. It's also important to recognize that setbacks are universal. No one goes through life without experiencing failure or disappointment. Even the most successful people have faced obstacles along the way. What sets them apart is their ability to persevere, to learn from their setbacks, and to keep moving forward. When you understand that setbacks are a normal part of the journey, they become less intimidating. They're not a sign that you're on the wrong path, they're a sign that you're growing. Lastly, setbacks remind you to celebrate progress, no matter how small. When you're focused on a big goal, it's easy to overlook the little victories along the way. But those small steps add up. Each time you overcome a setback, you're one step closer to your goal. Take the time to acknowledge your efforts and appreciate how far you've come. This mindset not only boosts your confidence, but also keeps you motivated for the road ahead. Setbacks are not the end, they're a new beginning. They're opportunities to pause, reflect, and emerge stronger, wiser, and more determined than before. They remind you that growth isn't easy, but it's always worth it. The journey of life is deeply personal, unique to each individual, and filled with twists and turns that are often unpredictable. It's tempting to look at the lives of others and measure your progress against theirs. Society constantly feeds us the idea that success looks a certain way, career milestones achieved by a certain age, social circles that reflect popularity, or a life that checks off every box society deems important. But the truth is, your journey is yours alone. Comparing your path to someone else's is like comparing a sunrise to a thunderstorm. Each has its own beauty, its own purpose, and its own timing. When you stop comparing yourself to others, you begin to embrace the power of individuality. You start to see that your experiences, struggles, and victories are uniquely yours, shaping you into the person you're meant to become. Comparison, on the other hand, robs you of joy and authenticity. It shifts your focus from your own growth to the achievements of others, creating a cycle of dissatisfaction and self-doubt. But the reality is, the only person you should compare yourself to is the person you were yesterday. Life isn't a race, and it isn't a competition. Each of us moves at our own pace, influenced by our circumstances, choices, and personal growth. When you compare your progress to someone else's, your journey is uniquely yours, unfolding at its own pace and with its own purpose. Trust it, honor it, and focus on becoming the best version of yourself. Stop comparing and start embracing the beauty of your path.